Hello, my name is Ryan Schosberg, and I'm a researcher with the Center for Coastal Studies Right Whale Ecology program. Today, I'll be talking about right whale mother calf presence in Cape Cod Bay and some of the trends that we've been seeing in recent years. Please don't share any of the content of this presentation on social media, please. So Cape Cod Bay is a well-known right whale feeding habitat in the Gulf of Maine during the winter and spring. The bay is relatively small, yet up to two-thirds of the population can be seen coming to Cape Cod Bay to feed each year. Right whales typically arrive in December or January and then are present in the bay through around mid-May. There are fixed fishing gear and vessel speed restrictions in place until right whales have left the area. Mothers with their calves begin to arrive in the early spring. And while mothers are here, they're typically feeding the entire time since they likely have not done much feeding on their calving habitat, and nursing mothers have elevated nutritional requirements relative to the rest of the population. For some context, an earlier CCS publication did some work characterizing mother calf usage of Cape Cod Bay from 1998 to 2013. They found that in that time frame, about 12.7% of all the mother calves were observed in the bay, and the highest percentage of calves for a particular year in the bay was 40%. They also found that on average, the first mother calf of the season was sighted on April 7th, with March 27th marking the earliest sighting in those records. We've noticed in the last couple of years, we've been seeing more mother calves in the bay. And so my goal here is to do a bit of a deep dive on that. I wanted to quantify if more mother calves are using the habitat than in the past, if there are shifts in when mother calves are using the habitat, and do some initial life history of the right whale moms that have started using the habitat in recent years. Understanding these trends can provide broader insights into how the species is utilizing the Northwest Atlantic, as well as help inform local management decisions. So today I'll only be showing CCS aerial survey data. No data from other institutions or platforms will be discussed unless specified. CCS has been flying line transect surveys of Cape Cod Bay since 1998. We have a map on the right of Cape Cod Bay in our typical survey plan. The black lines represent our typical track lines. Those have remained largely unchanged since the inception of the program. As far as defining Cape Cod Bay, I'll be deferring to the consortium designated area, which is this area shaded in red. So that's everything below 42 degrees 4 minutes north. Any animals outside of that are considered outside of Cape Cod Bay. For those familiar with our track lines, that encompasses our track lines 3 through 15. So here we have data on all of the surviving mother calves from 1998 to 2024. Years are on the x-axis, and the y-axis is raw number of individuals. I say surviving mother calves because any calves or mothers with calves that are confirmed or presumed dead on the calving grounds or while they were migrating through the mid-Atlantic south of Cape Cod Bay are not included since they didn't have the opportunity to come to the bay. So each bar represents the total number of surviving calves born each year, broken down into two categories. The orange represents surviving calves that year that were not observed in Cape Cod Bay by the CCS aerial program, and then the blue represents individuals that were observed in Cape Cod Bay by the CCS aerial program. The blue actually represents 66 individual right whale mothers that in total have brought 100 individual calves to the bay. Each of those animals brought a calf to the bay 1 to 4 years, and only one animal brought a calf to the bay 4 years. For those of you that are interested in individuals, that animal was wolf. As far as what we're seeing here on this figure, you can see that calving rates were much lower from in recent years compared to the highs from 2001 to 2009. There are also several years, especially early on, where the bars are solid orange. That means that despite all those calves being born, none were observed in Cape Cod Bay that year. And then despite relatively lower rates in recent years, 2021, 2022, and 2023 actually represent the highest raw number of calves brought to the bay in the entire data set. So this is that same data, but represented as a percentage of the mother calves that entered or bypassed Cape Cod Bay in each individual year. And this really gives a clearer picture and what we're seeing. There's a pretty noticeable increase in the percentage of mothers that bring calves to the bay starting around 2016. 2016 is also the first year where we exceeded that 40% maximum percentage of mother calves for a particular year that came to the bay. And since then, it was exceeded more often than not in most years. So from 2016 to 2024, we saw over 50% of all the mother calves observed, which is obviously much greater than the 12.7% of mother calves observed from 1998 to 2013. And then in 2023, there's a peak where we saw 10 out of the 11 individuals that were born that year. So next, I wanted to investigate if the increase in mother calves entering Cape Cod Bay was just a reflection of what the overall right whale population trends were doing, or if mother calves were coming to the bay at an increased rate. Here again, we have 1998 to 2024 on the x-axis, and then this blue line is just the percentage of mother calves observed in Cape Cod Bay each year. So this is the same data as the lower figure in the previous slide, just represented in a line graph rather than bars. And then the green line is the percentage of the overall population observed in Cape Cod Bay each year between March 3rd and May 11th. So that's the number of unique individual right whales sighted in Cape Cod Bay as a percentage of the population estimate for that particular year in the 2024 report card. March 3rd to May 11th were the dates I chose because that represents the earliest and latest sightings of mother calves in Cape Cod Bay. So we're only looking at the time in which mother calves are actually utilizing the bay. So this isn't all the individuals we see each season, but just those between those two dates. So main takeaways is that these trends are actually very similar, both overall trends and year-to-year variations, especially from 2010 to 2020. You could see the overall increase, but also the dips and increases from year to year are pretty similar, but there are also some differences in these two data sets. Early on, especially from 1998 to 2000, when there were no calves here, obviously the rest of the population was using the bay. And then 2007 to 2010, you could see that the general population was much greater than the mother calf usage of the bay. This is actually in line with some literature from the time that suggested that the bay isn't an optimal feeding habitat for mothers with young. And then, of course, from 2021 to 2023, the rate of usage of the bay by mother calves is much greater than that, the general population. So overall, there is a relationship between the overall population trends and mother calf pair usage of Cape Cod Bay. There are also some differences between these two groups. Next, I want to investigate if the mothers bringing calves to Cape Cod Bay from 2016 to 2024 were traditional users of the bay as a nursery, or if new animals were utilizing the habitat during their migration with calves. These results are pretty interesting, but I'm not going to go into too much depth since a lot of it is just from clicking around the online catalog one morning. So from 2016 to 2024, 43 unique right whales brought calves to Cape Cod Bay, which represents just over 60% of all the available mothers with calves. I broke them up into three groups, which you can see in this chart. First-time mothers are in gray, so those are animals that had never successfully calved before. And just under half of the available first-time mothers brought calves to Cape Cod Bay. Then in blue, we have mothers with at least one prior calf that brought at least one prior calf to Cape Cod Bay. And then the largest group is actually mothers with a calving history that brought their calves for the first time to Cape Cod Bay from 2016 to 2024. So these 19 mothers actually collectively had 64 prior calves that they hadn't brought to Cape Cod Bay. So they've had plenty of opportunities to bring calves to Cape Cod Bay, but for whatever reason, they haven't until recent years. Shifting gears a bit to when right whale mother calves are actually present in the bay. Here I'm showing the mother calf arrival date and departure dates each year. So on the x-axis, again, we have dates from 1998 to 2024. Then the y-axis is the day of the year, February through June. The blue line represents the first sighting of a mother calf pair in the bay by the CCS aerial team. And then the red represents the last sighting of a mother calf in the bay by the CCS aerial team. Then the gray is time in between, presumably some number of mother calves are utilizing the space. There are gaps some years when either no calves are born or no calves are brought to the bay. Key takeaways are departure dates have remained actually remarkably similar throughout the data set. Arrival dates are a bit more erratic, but 2021 to 2023 represent the three earliest arrivals on record. Previously, the earliest sighting was March 27th, and here we have a sighting as early as March 3rd. And then with early arrivals and steady departure dates, that obviously means that we have animals in the bay for a longer period of time each year. Looking on an individual level, so from 1998 to 2015, the mean residency time, aka the number between the first and last sighting of a mother calf pair in the bay individual, was 12 days. And then the max number of days that a mother calf was observed in the bay was 35 days. From 2016 to 2024, the average number of days between the first and last sighting of an individual mother calf pair was 17 days. And that maximum of 35 days in the previous time slot was exceeded very often. And actually, we had one mother calf pair that remained in the bay for 53 straight days in 2021. An interesting additional note. So here's that same figure, but I've added this green line. So this green line represents the last sighting of any non-mother calf pair in the bay. So just any right whale in the general population that isn't a mother or calf. In 15 of the 20 years that mothers with calves were observed in the bay, the mothers with calves were either the last individuals or among the last cohort of individuals in the bay, which makes sense if you think that the mothers with calves are sticking around trying to squeeze out as many last-minute calories as they can before they continue their migration. So when we're approaching the end of our right whale season in Cape Cod Bay, and there's most overlap with human activity, it tends to be these most vulnerable individuals that are lingering in the area. So wrapping things up, we are seeing more mother calf pairs using Cape Cod Bay in recent years. And this is largely influenced by mothers that typically avoided using the bay as a nursery habitat, deciding to bring their calves here. Mothers with calves are also present in Cape Cod Bay for more days of the year as they arrive earlier and as individual mother calves spend more days in the bay. I'll wrap things up there, but thank you to the consortium for having me, and thank you to our funders and my co-authors on this project.